In the glass and marble mansion perched above the city, where money hummed like electricity through the walls and silence felt expensive, 7-month-old Leo Blackwood had become a legend for all the wrong reasons. A tiny tyrant with a face like an angel and a temper sharp enough to send trained caregivers running. The son of self-made billionaire Adrian Blackwood, Leo rejected everyone: nannies with degrees, nurses with glowing resumes, specialists flown in at absurd cost, spitting up milk on silk blouses, shrieking until crystal chandeliers seemed to tremble, turning his head away from arms that tried to soothe him. And Adrian, who measured everything in returns and margins, could not calculate why his own child recoiled from human touch as if it burned, and so the house cycled through staff at a humiliating pace, each departure leaving behind whispered excuses and sealed NDAs, until one morning, when the staff roster looked thinner than Adrian's patience, a quiet maid named Clara arrived early to polish the banister, a woman whose uniform was plain, whose shoes were worn, and whose eyes carried a calm that did not ask for permission to exist. Clara had lost more than she spoke about and learned early that gentleness was not loud, and while she worked she hummed, not a performance, not a lullaby meant to impress, just a low, steady tune that rose and fell like breath. And Leo, who had screamed through the morning routine, paused, his cries snagging on the air as if caught by an invisible thread, his wide gray eyes tracking the sound without understanding it. And when Clara passed the nursery door, not even looking in, Leo fell silent, a fact that would have gone unnoticed if not for the nurse who froze mid-step and stared as if the impossible had just happened. Later, during the afternoon meltdown that had driven the latest nanny to tears, Clara was asked, almost as a joke, to hold the baby while the nurse fetched a towel, and the room seemed to hold its breath as Leo's mouth puckered in that familiar pre-spit grimace, but instead of rejecting the unfamiliar arms, he leaned in, pressed his soft cheek against Clara's collar, and did something no one had seen him do before. He relaxed, his tiny hand clutching fabric, his breathing evening out, and when Clara instinctively kissed his forehead, not to claim, not to conquer, just a reflex born of care, Leo responded by turning his face and planting a wet, clumsy kiss against her cheek, the kind babies give when affection finally finds a landing place. And the room erupted in stunned silence, broken only by Adrian's sharp intake of breath as he stood in the doorway. A man who had negotiated hostile takeovers without blinking, now frozen by a moment he could not buy. Days passed, and the miracle repeated itself with unnerving consistency. Leo spat at the nannies, arched away from trained hands, but leaned toward Clara as if guided by instinct older than reason, laughing when she made no effort to entertain him, sleeping against her shoulder while the world seemed to finally make sense. And Adrian, skeptical to the bone, installed cameras, hired consultants, ran tests, desperate to quantify what he was seeing, but the footage showed nothing suspicious, only a baby responding to presence without pressure, to a woman who didn't try to fix him, only to be with him. And as weeks rolled into months, the house changed, its echoing halls warmed by small, human moments, Leo's first giggle at Clara's off-key humming, his first calm feeding, his first night sleeping through without a scream. And Adrian, watching from the edges, felt something in him crack, a realization that all his resources had failed where simple patience had succeeded. And one evening, after witnessing Leo crawl determinedly across the rug to reach Clara, ignoring a dozen outstretched, credentialed hands, Adrian did something unprecedented. He asked her to sit, to talk, to tell him who she was beyond the uniform. And Clara spoke softly of a childhood where love had been scarce but kindness plentiful, of learning to listen to what wasn't said, of understanding that some hearts need quiet more than stimulation. And Adrian listened, truly listened, for the first time in years, realizing that in chasing excellence he had forgotten empathy, that in hiring the best he had overlooked the kindest. And when tabloids later spun wild theories, inheritance plots, secret bonds, scandalous implications, Adrian shut them down with a single statement and a public act, promoting Clara not to spectacle but to trust, acknowledging that his son's well-being mattered more than appearances. And the world watched as the billionaire learned what his son already knew, that love cannot be forced, only invited. And if this story moved you, if you believe that the smallest moments can change the biggest lives, remember to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories that remind us why kindness still matters. Because sometimes the miracle isn't the wealth, it's the kiss that finally finds its place.